the struggle. My mother told me that too. She said, Anita, they'll be so angry that you rose up. They'll even be pissed off about how you handled your struggle. They'll be mad about that. Like, how dare you rise up after I've knocked you down so many times and you keep getting up.
Be free from self-bondage, have to fend for yourself. Do not feast with the vultures. That's how you preserve culture. That's how legacy is built. Each one teach one, each one help one, each one feed one, each one praise one. There's no generational wealth without generational wisdom. No man is free unless the whole family is free. Family tax is a real thing.
My name is Charles Nzali. Welcome to another episode of 8 Balls on the Classroom.
Thank you.
Today I am sitting in the presence of someone who's refused to let culture get compromised. Today I'm sitting in the presence of a warrior, a lady who is a trendsetter. It's nothing I can say that could really make you understand what kind of legend I am sitting with today. But as things unfold, you'll understand better. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Miss Anita Dixon-Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I've never considered myself to be a warrior. I just saw some things that needed to be done and decided that if they were going to be done, I had to do them. And they crossed all kinds of different things because people need people who just get out here and decide if it's wrong, it's got to be righted. So that's been my life. It's
Thank you.
kind of strange, but it's been my life. That's who I am.
I'm gonna start everything first by saying, how are you?
I am absolutely wonderful. I am absolutely wonderful. It's been a little while. I've had some health challenges in the last 10 years, but right now I'm doing very, very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Praise God for that.
Absolutely.
Praise God for that.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Brown, what is your upbringing like as a child?
As a child, oh, well, that's a good one. As a child, I was one of 6 kids. I was number 4 and the first girl.
Oh wow.
Family, 6 siblings, 4 brothers, 2 girls. Growing up was what it was in a totally black segregated situation of the 50s and the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1956. So, you saw some of the first televisions in the neighborhood and telephones with cords that were 50 feet long and various things. My upbringing was one that the family was always together. We ate at the same table. We had chores and various things like that. But in my upbringing, particularly, I had a very strong mother. A very strong mother. My mother was one of the first black nurses to have a supervisory position in Kansas City and worked as a nurse in St. Joseph Hospital and a number of other places. So, to be a professional, to have a family and various things like that, I grew up in the era where there was a mother and father in the house. All the neighborhood kids had a mother and father in the house. People owned their property, that type of thing. As a child, as a matter of fact, there was some bumps in the road here and there that had to do with societal norms, like being put in a foster home at one time in my life because my mother was a professional woman, and the dynamic was the woman worked outside of the house in the black community, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the neighborhood that we lived in just about an all-white neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and all the women were at home. So we were considered to be neglected. Okay. And so we were put into foster homes and it was very, very strange. And then as I grew up, I noticed that when white women decided they wanted to start working in the workforce in the 70s and things like that, then their children came home to be by themselves too. And they were called Latchkey Kids. So, as a Black woman growing up in a family, growing up with siblings, growing up, my life, I didn't have a dynamic of the contrast of my life until I probably hit my teens. But just like most folk, life was pretty good as a kid. You rode your bike, you had mud pies, you did what other kids did. You went to school, you had your teachers and various things. It was growing up Black and female is a very interesting situation, particularly in my era. Very interesting.
That's beautiful. So how has that impacted you today in the things you do and what you have passion for?
Well, I'd have to probably go back into understanding why I got into business in the first place. Because just like anyone else, I was always trying to find a job, and I went to college, and that's a whole dynamic that was part of my life. But I had a child that was autistic. My youngest child. I have two children, and the oldest one was doing quite well. She was about 13. Then I had a autistic daughter, and I found myself in a position that there was no daycares for a child like this. And particularly in the Black community, I knew of no one that had an autistic person that they were caring for. So I kind of got into business strangely because I needed to stay at home to take care of a 13-year-old and to take care of this child that was diagnosed with autism at 18 months old. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a job. I was working in a college. And I looked around me and realized that I had to do something in order to take care of my family. I was a single woman. I couldn't just not have a place for my child to go, a single parent. So I decided one day I had gone to do something at my job. And like, you and I discussed earlier, it was like when you knew in your soul that you got to move on, this was the day. And I went to deliver something to the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in town. And I asked them, I said, I heard the Black Baptist Convention was coming to town. There was going to be 30,000 Black people in town. I said, well, where are you going to take them? What are we going to do? And the guy down there told me, well, Kansas City doesn't have a lot of Black stuff for them to do. I thought, that's insane. We're the city of jazz. We're the city of Charlie Parker. We're the city, of Underground Railroad. So we're that. We're huge in the history. And I literally went home that day. And this was 1992. And it was, I had this little word processor. It was like this big. And I made a flyer. And I took my rent money. And went and got flyers and things and paid a gentleman to play the saxophone, while me and my 13-year-old daughter went down to Bartle Hall and handed out this thing called the First Black Heritage Tour that I did. Come, and it said Jazz Heritage Tour, Black Heritage Tour, see the Underground Railroad, see these things. And I handed them out as people came out of their meetings. And by the time I got back home, we had answering machines then. It's 1992. By the time I made it back home, the answering machine was jammed. The next day, I went out and rented a 42-passenger bus. And because I knew where everything was, and I didn't have a problem talking, I've never had that problem. I actually got on this bus and went down to Bartle Hall and picked up people, stood outside, this is the tour. They paid me in my hand. And I did those tours for 5 days. In those 5 days, I made $3,000. And it was just like that. It just hit me.
In 1992.
Yeah, 1992, that we needed this. Because all around the country, people were beginning to recognize that Black stuff was pretty cool. But in the tourism industry, you were still pretty much relegated to the largest ball of twine somewhere, or what white people consider to be tourism, okay, what they wanted you to see. So for me to put together this Black Heritage Tour, it became popular very quickly, very quickly. And this is how I was able to stay home. I was able to put enough money in the bank to pay the rent, to pay the lights, the gas, and take care of my children at home. So I began to develop the tour, and I went and I got some local guys who were doing theater, and I put together people who were from the past. And as we did the tour walking, these people from the past would come out and talk to you and in costumes, and it got to be very, very popular. So from there, I went into consulting for various aspects of tourism that people wanted. The state offices of tourism, Kansas and Missouri. My first $35,000, check came from the development of helping the African American tour in the state of Missouri from those who had the contract. So I began with understanding that this was a market, that this was something that my people craved and wanted. So I put together tours that were for the Black family reunion when they came to town. And I got together with some friends who did libation ceremonies and funerals. We do big stuff for funerals. So I would get some of my friends who were in business, we would cater. Don't worry about the food anymore. Grandma and grandpa don't have to get together. The family, let us cater your funeral. And it got to be just snowballing from there. Culture and creativity and my contributions as a Black person in America was what I began to realize were very, very valuable. And now I was in a position to not only value them, but to benefit from them, make money for others also. And it became very important then to be as authentic as I could be. And that's when we started running into somewhat difficulties, because folk who are just trying to sell something don't really want authenticity. Okay. Case in point, I was bought into to be a consultant on what they were going to do. An Underground Railroad amusement park is virtually what it was going to be. They wanted people to come in and experience being on the run and all kinds of things. And I just sat at the table and I said, well, so when are we going to put the women on the auction blocks and spread their cheeks and look in their mouths and steal their children? When are we doing that? Because that's a part of the history too. And if you're going to think that I'm going to be a party to an Underground Railroad amusement park where someone can come and pay a ticket and take out a whip and tell me, run, Negro, then you've got me twisted. And as I kept going into this, I began to see more and more the disrespect that was a part of what they considered to be a niche market. They didn't consider to be valuable to them. They just wanted the additional dollars that came with it. So they figured as long as they threw me a piece of watermelon and some chitlins, I'd be okay. And I started fighting them on that. Millions of dollars being spent locally. And I get a call that says, we'll give you $5,000. Just let us use your name. But we've got this. We're going to do this. And I wouldn't let it happen. And we built this industry, we being other people across the country. There's some sisters and brothers that started Black Meetings and Tourism Magazine and a number of other people. We're talking pre-computers here. the highest of technology I had was a word processor and a fax machine. So we were always at the mercy of these people who printed magazines and stuff like that. And they didn't want to present us in the light that we were trying to do. You know, they wanted the happy darky that sang in the plantation yard at the end of the night's work type thing, you know. Oh, Anita, we don't want to go into that really bad stuff. And I was told this. Well, we heard you were talking about, you know, this enslavement on the trip, and can you kind of steer away from the really bad stuff? And I'd say no. No, there were auction blocks. Yes, they used to take a young black girl's first menses and use a piece of rag and tack it on the wall and put her name underneath it. And if she chose to run, they would put that under the bloodhounds' noses. And she was chased if she tried to escape. That is the truth. That is the truth. And if you do the Underground Railroad tour with me and you go to see the hazards and the problems that my people and other people helped to get us through, the Native American, Chinese, you know, the story doesn't end with all of us with Harriet Tubman. It doesn't begin and end with her. You know, there were people that sacrificed land and life and children. And if we're going to tell this daggum story for tourism, I'm going to be the only one who is officially able to do it, me and mine. Okay? Me and mine. I am not cultivating this for you guys to take over because you just want it. And that's what I started running into, those problems from people who just couldn't understand why this had become so important. This was beginning to feed my family. You know, this is how I brought myself out of poverty, literally. I went from having only $300 to pay my rent to 10 times that within 5 days. That was my people that did that. That was put that money in my hand. So I felt like I had a responsibility to make certain that it was always authentic, that it was always done from the heart, that it was always done, that they could walk out of my tour and feel and know and do something and have something a part of their children's lives. Because the Black Family Reunion is still very big. Mm-hmm. And the tradition of taking your children someplace that they're not familiar, and then all of a sudden they're being educated. I can't dumb that down. But then, you know, and then I had a responsibility for the Black business people, the people who own the restaurants, who would never see the tourism if I didn't bring it directly to them. Okay? Because, you know, as we know, we have these places and they had tourism traps, you know, and everybody else makes money but us. Okay? They'll bring the airline makes the money, the hotel makes the money, the ground transportation people make the money, McDonald's makes the money, but my people would never get to see that tourism dollars. So I devised this way to have restaurants and caterers and people like that. The day I convinced one of the hotels that was having a big Black convention, I said, if I can prove to you you're not ready for this convention, will you hire me to help work it for this? We've done everything. We've done this, we've done that. And all I had to do was go to their gift shop and say, you don't have a lipstick, you don't have a pair of stockings, you don't even have any Vaseline. Do you know what a sister gonna be looking for? You know? Do you have any idea? You don't have any hair care kits. You know, you don't have any combs. You don't have anything that black people would use if they left something behind. Right down the Colgate. Okay? Because it's a popular brand. You don't have any of these things. You don't have the liquor we drink. You don't have anything. So take me on as a consultant. I'll put all these things in here and I can guarantee you'll sell out before they leave. They did it. And the nighttime chicken wing party, they didn't believe that at first. I said, these people don't get out until the restaurants close. They don't get out of their meetings. So if they look the heck up and they walk in their hotel and somebody's picking up, got a pack of chicken wings and some french fries, they're taking it right up to the room and they're grateful to get it. And I convinced one Chinese restaurant to do delivery between their place, just stay open all night and do deliveries downtown. They closed up for a week celebrating for how much money they made. These are the things that became even bigger, Charles, as the years went by, because as the years started to go by, it seemed as if no one wanted to continue to believe that it was as big as it was. It's like, okay, Anita, you've done enough now. We've put all we're going to put into the African American market. We don't need to do anymore. But times were changing as everything was. And as that phase of things began to happen, my next thing was I had to start with legislation, getting an opportunity to work on HR 1635, which was the National Network to Freedom Act that preserves sites of the Underground Railroad throughout the United States and Canada. I was working with a number of people across the nation that were trying to preserve those sites because they were being dug up and people were, putting family dollars and, parking lots and things on very historic parts of our history, particularly Underground Railroad sites. And I'm in Washington, and I'm a lobbyist, essentially. And we're going to all the different legislators trying to push this HR 1635. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my entire life because I met people. First of all, I got to go to the Library of Congress and study, which was real big, the Smithsonian and study, and meeting people along the way that were the ancestors of some of the biggest names in the Underground Railroad. Okay, white and black. And to feel this spirit of non-compromise is when I realized that I was that non-compromising soul. My mama told me a long time ago, compromise makes a good umbrella, but a poor ass roof. So I kept seeing the compromise happen in the industry. Oh, don't say that, don't do that. That upsets the white folk on the tour. Oh, we don't want to mention the Ku Klux Klan. Oh, we don't, And I'm like, we can't have an industry and reclaim this history without that. I can't keep window dressing. So we got this bill passed, very, very important, set on the steps of where Frederick Douglass lived. And it was my spirit that just would not let me compromise this for the money, because I was being offered a lot of money. I mean, for me. But when you turn around and you get into 6 figures to do nothing, just window dress. Well, Anita, we love your company. You're doing great things. Here is $75,000 we're going to give you. But when I started investigating, come to find out they got a $10 million contract. But to use my name and face was going to be 75. Well, for a poor black woman, that's not a bad thing. But I figured it like this. You got a $10 million contract. You need me over here. Just put me in on the contract. And for the $75,000, I'll do the work. I'll take the 75, but I want to work. I want to be a part of the situation. I want to write the curriculum. I want to be there. I want to speak on behalf of my people. And they didn't want me to do that. They just wanted the window dressing, the diversity, you know. And that's when I really realized I had to draw the line. That if I am truly who I say I am, then I just got to come at this another way. And as crazy as it sounds, they wouldn't let me do it. Because they did not want they wanted my face. They wanted my company so they could fulfill their diversity. They did not want my voice. Did not want that. And that's when I realized how valuable my voice was. Not just to me, but to the businesses I represented. Mm-hmm. I could have taken that $75,000 and done pretty daggum good on my very own.
Mm-hmm. And just be quiet.
But I couldn't move my buses through the neighborhood anymore because that belonged to them now. Mm-hmm. I couldn't say, hey, girlfriend with the little soul food place, stay open for me tomorrow because I'm going to bring you a busload of people. Mm-hmm. Hey, Mr. Barbecue, so-and-so, I've got 10 buses coming here next week. Mm-hmm. I need this, that. I couldn't do that anymore because that belonged to them now. Mm-hmm. So I did turn it down. And they did find somebody to replace me. They did do that. And that was one of my first experiences with a coon, as we like to call them. Someone who is willing to front their culture and front themselves and front the culture for someone else's benefit. That is a very strange Black person if you've ever met one. They are compromising to embarrassment. And I understand the need to compromise sometimes. My people have been in that position many times, to have to not have anything to say because you could get your family hurt or, but it was never to the point where it was an embarrassment, okay? It was never to the point where all the other Black people were looking at you and were ashamed of what they saw. I couldn't bear that responsibility. So I became known as the Black girl who thought too much of herself. And that was even very hard to bear because Black folk were the purveyors of that. Many of them thought I was just plain stupid. Here's your chance to get paid and you turning it down. Who does that? I do. Because I can't hold my head up. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure I got a price. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm sure I got a price. It's like I'm not some big, I'm sure I got a price somewhere, but I've never been offered enough yet. And it's been since 1992. And I've been offered way into the six figures. But there was always something else on the horizon that I needed to do. And whenever I would turn my attention away from that, I always found something else that would sustain me and my family. So I wouldn't have to embarrass myself or embarrass the situation. Or, I didn't drive the best of cars or anything like that at that particular time, but life was good. I never looked over my shoulder. I was able to take care of my autistic daughter, get her the best of care. Whatever I needed to, I could stop work and go and get her or pick up my grandkids or something that was way more valuable than trying to front at some luncheon, because I got to show my Black face up somewhere. so these people can do what they say they were going to do. So that's pretty much the beginning of who I was as a business person, which has pretty much been a huge part of my life, being this Black business woman in America out of necessity. Because Lord knows I would have liked it a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, 401k and I like everybody else,
9 to 5.
And I get off, I go out with my husband and me, and we put up a little money for our retirement, and yeah, that was what I thought I was going to do. And it didn't work out that way, because the more responsibility, I'm finding out books are being written that were incorrect. I'm showing up in places and people are trying to reinvent our history and then trying to get me to co-sign for it. Oh, here is Anita Dixon-Brown. She'll tell you, well, no, that's not quite correct. So then I got ostracized for that, because I wouldn't go there and put the rubber stamp on their idea of marketing. This is black and white alike, so I'll leave nobody out of that. But this culture and creative, this importance of authenticity, this importance of 1619. What happened to our generational wealth? And then you're finding out things like Rosewood and what happened in places where they just bombed us out of our generational wealth.
Tulsa.
Yeah, Tulsa, Oklahoma. When the Scottsboro boys were just trying to get on a train. Emmett Till didn't whistle at the woman. 60 years later, we find out she lied. The lynchings, the various things, but they want you to compromise that because they want me to pick up a banjo and sing for them and make them feel good. I find out things like white women in the 1920s were trying to do a Mammy Statue to commemorate the mammies that took care of them during enslavement. And there is actually a picture of this guy with a black woman in a head wrap whose children are grabbing at her clothes, but she's holding a white child. They wanted to put this in the Washington Mall. This Mammy statue. And there were women from the Negro Women's League and stuff that stood against that. Like, I'll be damned. You guys think we wanted to do that? So you're going to thank us for our own children not being able to be suckled at our breast. You're going to thank us for that. We just want to thank the black woman for being enslaved. And what a good job she did for us. Look it up. I tell people all the time, don't. Look it up. The Mammy statue is there. But it never made it to the mall. Those are the people, Ida B. Wells and Mary McLeod Bethune and Sojourner Truth and Barbara Jordan. Those are the women I fancied myself to be. And whatever it took for that dignity, that's what I wanted. I wanted my children. I remember when I holding my first daughter and looking at her face 43 years ago and saying to myself, what kind of mother am I going to be to this child? And will she know it? And will she care that I am her mother? She did. And she does. And she acknowledges me. She has a business of her own. She's doing quite well with her business called Flawed and Free. And 50,000 listeners my child has on her podcast.
Wow, that's great.
Smart girl.
Yeah.
But she tells me that she got it from me. Yeah, I like that. So that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that. And again, the years kept passing and opportunity kept coming at me that way. So I got this ridiculous reputation that I was hard to work with. Oh, well, you know her. She's difficult to work with.
Wow.
Yeah, because misogyny in the Black community, male misogyny, and others who refuse to believe that you will fight. You know, they put their feet on your neck and don't expect you to twist around because they're so used to doing it to everybody that when they run across you, they figure that you're going to be the same as everybody else. And when you turn around and you don't bark, you only bite.
Yeah, you become a target.
Yeah. Then you gotta. Then you're something's wrong with it. The angry Black woman. Oh, the angry Black woman. Oh, that's what she is. She's just an angry Black woman who never had. You know, they have no idea what they're saying when they're saying that. Yes. And those of us who display anger, righteous anger, no, this isn't unfounded. This comes from a very deep place. And so the guarding of my culture, the protectiveness I have about this, the struggle. My mother told me that too. She said, Anita, they'll be so angry that you rose up. They'll even be pissed off about how you handled your struggle. They'll be mad about that. Like, how dare you rise up after I've knocked you down so many times and you keep getting up? Well, who the hell do you think you are? And you'll get that. Everybody else succumbs. Everybody else breaks down. Who do you think you are? So, righteous anger, I got lots of that. But it never comes out until I'm forced into a situation. And it's like, I thought they told you about me before I got here. I'm 65 years old now. It's not 40 years ago. It's not 30 years ago. I'm 65 years old now. I've had 4 heart surgeries. I'm here by the grace of God. Okay, and some really good surgeons.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm still here.
Yep.
But now the righteous anger has even more ammunition because I've got the internet. Technology changed the game. Totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. When access to the technology came from me about 22 years ago, my first computer I was able to get. And that AOL sound, like, why don't you get rid of AOL? I said, because my AOL account represents something to me. And I will have it until it's over. Because it represents the first time that I was able to connect. And now that I've watched this thing grow over the last 20-something years, there's nothing you cannot do. You want your voice heard now, you just put it out there now. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to have anybody come and write their byline underneath what you say and give their interpretation of what you said. You can say it straight out and straight up. And I think it's like the holy grail
Yeah.
because I can put websites out now. I can put out the information. I can show people. I can snope something and tell people, see, I told you they made raincoats out of black folks' skin. Y'all didn't believe me. Look, there it is right there. So the game changer came about. Yeah. And I'm talking. If you got some more questions, go ahead.
No, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
What you're saying is true, because the internet gave us that creative license to create without approval.
Right.
You know, so long as it's created from a place of pure intention of good.
Right.
We are given that creative license to create, and then, you know, put up whatever we are creating, put it out to the world for people to see, for people to learn and appreciate and see the beauty in exactly what it is that we want to create and we want to make.
It was never, I won't say, it was 1992 when I started. By the time it hit 2002, it was still in its infancy. Yeah. Okay. But 20 years after that, there is the ability now. It's like no excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no excuse not to be getting out here now and seeing what you can do for your people, for your life, for your things, because the communication is so readily there. And I hear about the digital divide, and I know all about that. But I say to particularly my folk, if you got $1,000 phone in your pocket, you cannot tell me why you can't teach your child.
Yeah.
Because essentially what you have is a computer in your pocket.
Yeah. The phones are.
That's right.
They're very powerful, even more powerful than certain type of computers.
And you can do more than get Instagram and stuff. You guys can do more than this for your kids. So a child who's only educated at school is an uneducated child.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
Very true.
We've got the ability now that we didn't have before to get out here and change the lives of everybody. But my greatest, as I got older, I had a open heart surgery 10 years ago now. And it changed my perception of what I needed to do as I got older. Okay, I couldn't get out there fighting and scrapping anymore. And pointing in the sun and doing tours and stuff, I couldn't do that anymore. I started writing, but one of the main things I did is I started looking around my community for sustainability. It's all good to say we need, but it's all good to talk generational wealth. It's all good to do that, but how are we actually going to achieve it? What have they left us left? What have they given us that gentrification in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and no restaurant, no grocery stores, and crack and stuff that they've put in our neighborhoods didn't take away? What do we have? And as my mama used to say, she's a wonderful woman, look in there and see what you can find to eat, because you can always find something if you know what to do.
Yeah.
And I started looking in my community and realized what we've got is music. We have captured the entire world with our moves, our music, and our innovation in that. And there is nothing they can ever take. They can tear down every building, they can steal every house, and they can steal, but that thing that we got from Africa,
rhythm,
that thing is so deeply embedded in our DNA, literally, that they took music out of the schools and these kids came up with rap. Rhythm and poetry. They took music out of, and they came up with hip hop sounds and beats and beatbox and using your mouth, that is what people who are original creators do. And I began to see the industry, creative industry, as an economic tool to come out of poverty, to bring our children back into generational wealth. Because the one thing that we share as generational is our music.
Is our music, yes.
Okay, so when I hear Black people talk generational wealth, they've got two things they can think about: this new technology ability and hone it and get it moving, and the old generational wealth, which is our recreation of new things. That was that is us. The other day I was looking at a video of some kids from Japan who were jamming to James Brown.
Yeah, I seen the video.
Okay.
I seen the video. They even dressed. The dress was even culturally influenced by what the music, the how people were dressing when James Brown,
bell-bottom pants and things. Oh yes, absolutely. And I'm telling people, that's our generational wealth, people. That's it. This preservation of this music, of this thing that we brought to the world, this thing, particularly in Kansas City, called jazz. So when I had the opportunity, I wrote the UNESCO Creative City of Music, which made the application that made Kansas City the only creative city of music in the United States under UNESCO.
And the UNESCO is the United Nations
Educational
and
Scientific
Science and Cultural Association.
You got it. It's the only one in the United States. I wrote that one single-handedly. Someone challenged me on that. Again, I've got my coons and my
I don't want you to brush past that, because that is me. I don't want you to just brush past that. I want us to actually break that down.
Okay.
Because it's not too many cities in the world that are UNESCO's cultural music cities. I know of Berlin, and if you know a little bit about Berlin, Berlin is like, it's like a world of its own, creatively, culturally. You go to Berlin, you might meet people from all over the world in Berlin. And then I know of Nassau, Bahamas. It's a music city, UNESCO's music city. And then to look at what these cities offer culturally, and also living in Kansas City for 5 years now, and you drive around the Jazz District, you drive around Kansas City, there's a lot of culture in this city. I never knew Kansas City was a part of that, and you single-handedly did that. How did it happen?
Me and a friend of mine, a colleague, Jacob Wagner, Dr. Jacob Wagner, we were actually looking to make 18th and Vine a World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
Okay, because of the history, because of the Mutual Musicians Foundation, Local 620, everything that happened down there, we were trying to get World Heritage Site for the area. We happened upon Creative Cities. Now, this was like 2014, and we were going to apply. The application only comes around every 2 years. So in 2014, we go to the city and we say, hey, here's an opportunity to promote our jazz history through this incredible designation. Do you want to do this? So we were going to, there were people who had the job to do this. Well, we just hired someone who's going to take over that part of thing. We'll wait for the next one. So she comes on. We wait 2 years. And I come back to her in 2017 when it came up again. And I said, are you going to write UNESCO Creative City? And that was at the beginning of the year. It was due in June. And she assures me, oh, yes, we're going to do that. Well, I called late May And I said, well, is there anything I can help you with? You know, this is really important. Oh, we've decided we're not going to do that this year, Anita. We're going to do that. And I said, well, it's not going to come around again until 2019. You know, you got to. And that's when I decided, you know, these people aren't going to do what's necessary. And I got the paperwork and I talked to my colleague. I've been doing research and things like that for years. So I knew where everything was. And when I looked at the questions, I said, I can answer these questions. It was 22 pages, and you had to answer in characters, not words. And I called this person. I asked her how far along she was into the application, and she told me she wasn't going to do it, that they weren't going to do it. It was, you know, they couldn't get the committee together, blah, blah, blah. And I decided then we can't keep missing these opportunities. So with 26 days left to file, I sat down and took this 22-page application and spent the next 26 days, day and night, 12 hours a day, writing this application. Because mind you, you have to get it filed before you can get it submitted. So it was due June 16th or something like that. And it was due European time. I came in something like 7 hours before the deadline shut off.
So it's 5 hours ahead.
Yeah.
European time is 5 hours ahead of ours.
And I took every inch of that. And we didn't find out if we got it until October. The night before we found out, I couldn't stop crying. And my husband kept asking me, like, what is wrong? I said, I feel a shift. I feel something's happened. He said, you don't think you're going to get it? I said, no, it's not that. It's like there was crying out from somewhere, you know, and I couldn't stop crying. It was all night long. I'm just boo-hooing, don't know why. The next day, I get a phone call at 11:30. He did it. And then we found out we were the only creative city in the United States. Then, this is a good one. This is probably the best one. Who was our president at that time? Trump pulled us out of UNESCO. So that means that conceivably until the United States goes back as a member of UNESCO, we can be the only creative city of music in the United States for some time. Because we came in under the we came in under the Obama administration. Because Trump didn't care anything about paying in UNESCO. So conceivably, we will be the only creative city of music in the United States until the United States returns to UNESCO. And we don't know when that'll be. So had I not done that, there would have been no American music as part of the international network.
When American music is consumed and is influenced, rap music especially, and not only rap music, rap and soul and
everything
R&B has influenced music all
over the world. Can you imagine, in a network as vast as UNESCO, we would have had no presence at all? That's what all the crying out was about. So now I've got this other responsibility, and that is not only to get us back in UNESCO, but to represent the other cities that deserve to be there too. Nashville, Chicago, New Orleans, New York, Philadelphia. You know, people who have tremendous music contributions from America. But because we're the only one in the network, and people just love it. well, we'll just be. I said, no, because you guys don't take care of what we got here. I need to form alliances with these other cities because you guys are treating this like it's, again, I'm back at the table with people who want to hoard it for their own reasons and not see it as generational wealth or economic development for my community. They don't see it as that. They still want to keep, paying my musicians $75 a gig and using their talent while they hold their little parties and things like that. Oh, well, you think they'd want to do a gig for exposure? And crazy stuff. This is people's livelihood. So right after we got our 501c3, Creative City, I wrote that too, Creative City KC, that is the governing body for UNESCO Creative City USA. And I quit calling ourselves Creative City, UNESCO Creative City KC. I started calling us Creative City USA, of Music USA, because we're it. So when people call, from different parts of the world, well, call Anita, call Jacob, call them in US. So I get calls for all kinds of stuff. Do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know? And 9 times out of 10, we do know. Okay, so that's the responsibility of this application that took me that time. I'll never forget how exhausted. I literally, 3 days after I submitted, I had to go into the hospital. Again, this heart problem. I had stressed myself out so badly that my blood pressure and stuff was doing crazy stuff. But like I said, when we found out in October, then I had another set of stuff to do. Then it was, now we've got it. Now what do we do with it? So that was 4 years ago, and our 4-year report is impeccable. We've got to meet Pulitzer Prize winning brothers like Tahimba Jess and poets and musicians from all over the world. And we took a trip to San Cristobal, Mexico, when we find out that the marimba is an African construct. That instrument was created by the Africans that were enslaved in that part of the country. I didn't know that. We found that out with UNESCO. We did the Voyage of the Drum that brought together 20 countries with their drum culture. So if you go to Voyage of the Drum on YouTube, you can see 20 countries and their culture of the drum. Okay, what the drum did for us, you can see our from Africa to jazz. The tones of Africa are in jazz. We're trying to teach people that. So the future of what we do and how I do it had to come from knowing that I was given an assignment. I was given an assignment, probably from birth, and that assignment dictated that I be authentic, not only to what I was doing with the assignment, but to myself.
Very important.
Okay, and I don't look over my shoulder, Brother Charles, because there's nothing back there. I don't worry about where I go or if I've offended someone or something, because if I said it, I meant it. 9 times out of 10, it was the truth as I know it. So I don't have to worry about how I repeated it, because if I said it, I meant it. If I called you a low down, dirty son of a bitch, then I meant every word. And there's no way in the world I'm going to retract it, because there's something you did that made me do that. And I had to own that part of me. You know, it's hard to live as a black woman in this country, anywhere, honestly, and have the voice that I've been given. And then because you want to be liked or something like that, you don't get a chance to use it when someone's wronged you. You know, I tell people all the time, if you hear me say something about someone, it is because they have wronged me in some way. And I'm only telling you because I want you to avoid it. Okay? Because I either like you, because if I don't like you, I'm gonna let you fall in your same hole. Oh yeah, you fooling around with them, be my guest. Because this is what I found out. But there are a few people you will find who will walk up on me and have anything to say. They may talk a lot of trash. They won't walk up on me and say it. I'm quite proud of that. Like, yeah, okay. I'm not the chihuahua behind the fence. Okay, wolves don't bark.
Bark. No, don't.
Okay, wolves don't bark. So you need to be very, don't just be who you are. Be authentic. I know authenticity. I know fake too. And even at 65, I'm seeing more and more fake. And I tend to ignore it because I'd rather take a nap and watch the Flintstones than sit and waste my time talking to people who don't really care about what's happening to our community. Our generational wealth is in this. Black gold is still what it is. And they try to drag our bodies and stuff like that now to this day. They try to use and abuse our physical presence, right down to stealing our hair, jacking our dadgum bamboo earrings, and injecting crap in their butts. It's still that way. But if our people want to know what the generational wealth is, invest in your child's talent. Invest in the talent of your community. Invest in the talent because they're going to create something new. Guaranteed. All you got to do is be sitting there waiting on it. And that's what I pray I'm doing. That I'm setting the system up like I was able to get the American Music Apprenticeship Program. The first time that the Department of Labor has recognized musicians as an apprenticeable profession. Okay, it was never recognized before I spent 3.5 years lobbying these people. Why can't you see this as a job? Being a musician's a job, people, just like anything else. So recognize it and let me get this apprenticeship so we can fund it. And fund it like you would any other apprenticeship. Finally got it. Took me 3 years. Going back and forth with the Department of Labor.
That is golden.
Yes, it is. Because I'm going to be gone one day, and the American Music Apprenticeship Program is going to exist for those who don't want to go to college, who don't want to go to the conservatory and spend $250,000 being a dadgum jazz musician, but ain't no job when you get out. No. Learn how to be a professional musician. Get your passport. Learn how to, roadie your own stuff. Learn how to read your own contracts. Learn how to do this that you're doing. So in case you want to learn how to get yourself your own vinyl machine and cut your own record. Learn how to market yourself. Be a musician. Make money being a musician. We can do it, but you got to have apprentices. It's got to be a profession. And it took me 3.5 years. That's another story. They kicked me out of that application 14 times in 3.5 years. And finally, I got one back, and I asked, why this time? And the woman told me, because you didn't indent your paragraphs. So you kicked me out of the application because I didn't indent the I said, oh, hell no. And my husband said, get your stuff together, go to Washington. I actually flew to D.C. and met with the people at the Department of Labor and said, I came here today so you guys can show me right here why you keep kicking this out, because it doesn't make sense. Of course, musicians are laborers. Of course they are. What else are they? Just here for your enjoyment, huh? Just that's how they did us on the plantation. All those guys who played banjos and cardboard boxes and stuff like that. Get your girl for the Virginia reel. We made up all that stuff. Square dancing. All that stuff that they say is white. No, we did it. We did all of that.
Cardboard boxes. That's a bongo.
Yeah. Is it a bongo?
I call it bongo.
Okay. See what I'm saying? We made all of that stuff. The whole history of this country, music, this country, indigenous to this country, was built on the backs of Black folk. That is our generational wealth.
So, if you look back at all of that, right? Even with everything it has cost you, the time, the stress, the up and down, the resistance that you have faced, do you find fulfillment now, or is there more?
There's more. There's so much more. And sometimes I find myself, because I am getting older, I find myself wishing I was going to be here to see it. Wishing for more time. Because it's only just started now. It seems like it gets fresh every week. And there's something more to do. And that's when you come to the realization that it never ends. And that's the only part of this that gives me the hope that somebody's going to see this and they're going to pick it up like I did, because I got it from somebody. I got this whole idea of this whole jazz thing from a guy named Eddie Baker 40 years ago. And I listened to him talk, and I listened to him as he talked to Dizzy Gillespie and Nancy Wilson and all these great names in jazz. And it caught fire in me. And now that it's been 40 years with me, I realize now that I've got to pass it on so that somebody, but I don't pass it on, somebody picks it up. Okay. I used to think that you could designate somebody. Oh, it doesn't work like that, because I've had a couple of coons that thought they were going to take my work and just
So you don't
get
think
paid.
You don't think if you, I don't know if hire is going to be the correct word, but you don't think if you have someone, an assistant, a young assistant, that you show these ropes, you don't think they can take from where you stop and continue?
They are going to have to insert themselves. I worked for Eddie. Mm-hmm. I did everything they needed because they needed it. Mm-hmm. There was nobody else there. Mm-hmm. Nobody who didn't want to do it unless they were getting paid, in other words. But it was such a fascinating thing for me. And I was so honored to be a part of this thing that when he died, I thought, what's going to happen to this? And it hurt me to think that, that this guy's all this wonderful ideas and stuff that I'd written down and helped him do were just gonna die. So I kind of like picked it up and carried it. And I don't think I can just, because he didn't point at me and say, "You the one." You know, he didn't do that. Mm-hmm. I made myself the one. So whoever is working with me, whoever sees this, whoever believes in it themselves, they'll pick it up. They'll have the tools. They'll have many things that I didn't have, like Eddie didn't have that I did. And they'll internalize it because that person is either born now or going to be, mm-hmm. because it doesn't end. And that's the solace that I have, that I may not get to see it. Martin Luther King knew he wasn't going to see it, mm-hmm. but he knew it was going to be here. He said, "I may not get there with you, but I have seen the promised land." Like, yeah.
So what do you wish for jazz music, black entrepreneurs, black music, the whole 9 yards? What do you wish?
I wish that my own people first would see this as their generational wealth opportunity. That anything they want to grow and make bigger becomes this thing in their creative. That's probably my greatest wish, that my people see this as the gift. Because they want to see everything that the white man has as the gift. Land, buildings. That's only a part of stuff. And if this climate change and everything doesn't show people anything, all that's transient. All of it is. What happened in Tonga, what happened in Puerto Rico, stuff just getting wiped out. It's all transient. The only thing that remains is this creative, this music, this art, this dance, this hair, this stuff that is us. That's our generational wealth. And if we start treating ourselves like our generational wealth, we'll be okay. But because we're trained to look at each other and see devastation and ugliness and stuff like that, we'll never realize that. And they'll always take our generational wealth. They'll always do it. They'll always dangle that carrot of contracts and putting you out there and making you a star and stealing your work and putting their names on your work, like they've been doing for years. If we see ourselves, Jay-Z saw himself, okay, Rockaware and all that other business, he saw himself as just generational wealth. Dadgum if he didn't put it together. And now they see Jay-Z as a brand. Okay, Robert Johnson with BET. He saw Soul Train. He saw
Tyler Perry.
Yes, they see that this is our generational wealth.
It's a man under the tree somewhere in Africa painting or carving, who's selling his art for really cheap, for $100 a top, whose art is brought all over the world somewhere, probably resell for way more than he is creating it for. Or it's a Jamaican somewhere in Jamaica who created reggae music, whose music is taken all over the world and exported and jammed and played everywhere in the world, but he is not getting
That's right.
paid for his music. What do you wish for those two?
I wish that they would listen to that voice that I know is speaking to them, because I've heard it myself. I know it is. That's telling them, hold on, it's going to be all right. Just believe that this is what you're supposed to do. And dodge the bullets, dodge the raindrops, stay out there, because your time is nigh. It'll be here if you believe it. That's the hard part of this. When they dangled that $75,000 contract at me, it wasn't like I didn't want it. I thought about all of the things that I could do that would relieve myself of the pain of the everyday bills and the various things like that. I get that part. But that something kept talking and it wouldn't go away. Like, just hold on, just wait a minute, there's more. Oh, there's so much more. Don't take the pennies. There's so much more. Just believe it. And literally, I'm living the more now. You see all this? Mm-hmm. I'm living the more.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm living it now.
Can I move in the basement?
Absolutely. I got a lot of room. I'm living it now. I'm living that I actually dreamed of 30 years ago. It's here. I drive the nice cars. I live in a $1 million house. I live on 8 acres. My husband's well-to-do and loves me very much. I have grandchildren and getting ready to have a great-grandchild. I'm not in a hover round. And some people say that I look much younger than my 65 years. I did it.
Yeah, yes, you do. Your hair looks healthy.
I did it. Yeah, I did it. And it's because that little voice made me believe I could.
Do you feel fulfilled?
Absolutely. Because I can hold my head up in any situation. People know that I am non-compromising. No one comes to me now with the okie doke. Nobody. Because they get the message before I get there. Anita Dixon-Brown ain't that Negro. Y'all better come right. Y'all need to come right, because she'll cuss you out. She'll do whatever is necessary. Don't come disrespectful, because I haven't forgotten how to do it. But now, even though I can see the sneers on their faces. I can see all that. But they don't dare say it like they used to. They don't dare. And that's what you want. Hey, if I can't be loved, I'll be feared. I'll take that. I'll take that. Because was that Machiavelli said that?
Yeah.
Can't be loved, be feared.
Yeah.
I see that. So yeah, I want my people to know that this thing we call generational wealth is us. We are the wealth we seek. And we need to start looking at our brothers and sisters as wealth and what they do and how we keep ourselves well and how we keep our communities well and working. Because they'll always look on the inside and wish they were us. They just don't want to be us.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I am so grateful. I am so honored for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I have learned.
This is pretty cool.
Thank you. I've learned a lot today. And Ali, I told you I am so proud of you. I am more I'm prouder, if that's a thing. I am prouder. And thank you for everything.
Absolutely.
Thank you for. Nobody knows what's ahead. I wish we can predict what's ahead. But the future of art and jazz music and black tourism and every aspect of black entrepreneurship, every single thing,
Everything
is bright.
it is.
It's
It is
bright because
very bright.
people like you refused to take 75,000 and sit under the tree. And what does legacy mean to you?
Whoa. Never been asked anything like that. What does legacy mean to me? It would have to mean that someone would draw strength from seeing my life. Because that's what Tina Turner did for me as a celebrity. I drew strength from watching her. That's what my mother's legacy was. I want my legacy to be, if somebody is trying to figure out what they're going to do because they have a special needs child and they don't know what they're going to do, and they want to, that they would draw their strength from me and move on with their life. I want that to be my legacy, that you can draw water from the well after I'm gone, because I left enough behind to do that. That's what I hope happens. I stand on the shoulders of some of the greatest people I've ever seen in my life. My mother being probably the main one. Gorgeous woman, 6 kids, a nurse, hell of a cook, strong-willed, who just said, if you let them beat you, that's on you.
I just have to shake your hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was fun.
They'll sell you hope for the price of action. It's for you not to auction your dream at a 9-to-5 gathering. Plan the ropes to be free from self-bondage. Have to fend for yourself. Do not feast with the vultures. That's how you preserve culture. That's how legacy is built. Each one teach one. Each one help one. Each one feed one. Each one praise one. There's no generational wealth without generational wisdom. No man is free unless the whole family's free. Family tax is a real thing. My auntie need a Benz. My cousin needs some Jordan 3s. I'll be damned if I let another man tell me my limits. Catch up, naysayer. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning.